What's going on, everybody? It's Dan back with another Moonshine talking. Hope everyone's having a good one. I'm doing all right. It's been a fairly eventful past couple of days. Uh, Physical therapy on the shoulder, still rehabbing that, but that one's it's going good. I got one more session with my PT, with my physical therapist, and then they're going to release me to the wild to try and continue to rehab my shoulder on my own. There's only so much they can do. So they've shown me enough exercises and tips and techniques to get the shoulder rehabbed. I pretty much kind of give you some context. When I first went in there, like you can see, like this was as far as I could move my shoulder. And since I've been going to physical therapy, now you can see I got a lot more range of motion. Like when I was initially going in there, they had me do an exercise where I was put my arm against a wall or a post and bring it back and just do that very small motions. And I was only able to kind of like do that much. And there was to the point where they had to take a yoga block and put it between my forearm and the wall to give me the ability to not be in intense pain while I was doing it. And in probably like 3 4 weeks when I went in there last week, they were my my therapist, trainer, whatever you want to call her. She was impressed with the fact that I was actually able to do it without the yoga block, actually get relatively full range of motion, to the point where she then tied a band up to the post and had me doing it that way, had a resistance band. So anyhow, without getting too much into the gory details of weight training and physical therapy and all that sort of stuff, that's kind of what's going on there. And the reason why I am doing a video right now is because on top of going to see Belphegor on this past Sunday, I happen to catch another show on what would be Thursday night, which was the 20, 27th. Sorry, dates get jumbled sometime. So I figured I'd talk about it, share my thoughts and feelings and recap the shows with you. So first of all, like I said, last Sunday night I went to go see Belphegor at the Orpheum. The Orpheum is here in Tampa, Florida. Very, very well known club in the area as far as they do a lot of metal shows, but they also do a lot of like indie rock and EDM and emo stuff, which is not my thing, but you see a lot of shows going on there throughout the course of the week and the evenings. This year, they're not as heavy on the metal shows as I wish they'd be, and the shows that they do have, they're not typically on the nights off that I have, which kind of sucks. But they got a lot of good acts coming through, and it just so happened that Belphegor was going to be here. I've only recently gotten into them as far as a band. I saw someone talking about them, checked them out, liked what I heard, and then it just so happened I was checking the Orpheum's website for any shows that were upcoming, and this one popped up. So I was like, oh, hell yeah. So I ended up switching my schedule around, got the night off, and yeah, man. So this was their Devils Across North America 2025 tour. They have two supporting acts with them, and then they had an opener with them. The opener, it's a local band. I didn't catch their name. They said it. I don't remember what it was. The only thing notable I could tell you about them, other than they sounded fine. I mean, it was death metal, but I couldn't really tell you too much about it other than their bass player is somebody who I see at a ton of shows. He's constantly in the pit. A couple of times I've seen him causing all sorts of mayhem in the pit. As a matter of fact, one of the first shows I went to at the new location of the Brass Mug, it was I want to say it was Suffocation and I want to say Goat Whore, but I'm probably getting that wrong. But I think that's who played. I think that's who played together. But nonetheless, Suffocation was there, and that he and a couple other people started a pit. Guy next to me got run into and knocked, spilled his beer all over him, and he got real pissed. And a fight almost broke out because he threw the rest of his beer at this particular guy, and it just caused the whole thing before people stepped in and broke it up and all that sort of thing. So beyond that, I couldn't tell you anything about the name of the band. Uh, if they have demos, EPs, full length releases, none of that stuff. I just know they're from here local. They're a local band, and the bass player I see at a lot of shows. So then up next was a band called Vela Panath, and hopefully I'm pronouncing that last part correct. And they were really good. They actually, for me, they were probably like they were the show stealer. They were the sleeper hit of the night. They do tech, a little more tech deathy kind of stuff, but they were really good. I hit up their merch table and I spoke to their guitar player Vance for very briefly, and I kind of felt bad because I wanted to get their CD. I wanted to get one of their CDs, and I was asking him some basic questions, and then I asked him how long they'd been around, and because I'd never heard of them, which isn't that's not like a big hurdle to jump, is me not knowing who you are. But I think he may have gotten a little offended that I didn't know the band had been around for almost 20 years and they've toured the area a bunch of times, because I was asking him how long they've been around, if they were new, if this is their first time in Florida, and he kind of just like chuckled and was like, "No, we've been here a bunch of times. We've even been here with Belphegor before." So nonetheless, I purchased their CD, which was, I have it here somewhere. Yeah, here we go. It's out on Willow Tip Records, and the name of it is Between the Worlds of Life and Death. That's Vale Pnath. That's the CD right there. And it's pretty good. I would say one of the things I absolutely hate, I loathe about this is that look how small the lyrics are on this Digipack CD. That's ridiculous. Like, my eyesight's not the worst, but it's not the best. Obviously, it's not great, but to need a microscopic lens to read that is kind of ridiculous. I'm gonna have to sit there with my phone and like use the camera and blow it up, zoom it in, and all that sort of stuff. Or I could probably just go to Metal Archives and read along when I'm listening to the CD. But it's pretty good. I would say the one criticism that I do have is that one of their songs, that because a lot of people there liked them, and there was people in front of me that were really into this band, like they knew all their stuff and were very familiar with them. But they had one song where one of the riffs in the song was very, very, very. It was almost too closely reminiscent of "Fire and Void" by Behemoth, and it got me thinking, well, when did they put this out? And it happens to be on this new album. I forget which song. It's either track 2 or 3 on the album, but it just, I don't know. Sometimes a little too close for comfort, and sometimes I don't know. That's a whole other topic of discussion, is it parallel thinking or plagiarism and that sort of thing. Actually, it's something I've been meaning to talk about, but I just I haven't gotten around to it. But yeah, so that was them, and yeah, they were good. So definitely, other than that, yeah, check them out. They're a good band. Their vocalist, he's got some great growls and screams. He's got some good. He can sustain a lot of the notes that he hits, which was really cool. A lot of the shrieks and the growls and all that stuff. He did a really good job on it. The drummer was really good. He was really into everything. Very performative when he was behind the kit. Yeah, the whole band was killer. So definitely, Vale Panath, check them out. And then up next was a band who, again, had no idea who they were. And actually, before I mention that, I'll mention this. So there was a band, Hate was another band that was scheduled to be on this tour. And for whatever reason, they weren't on the tour. I don't know why. I tried looking into it. I saw a video of theirs that Century Media put out for a new song of theirs. And I read some of the comments where people were talking about how it's a shame that they're not on the tour. Nobody mentioned why they're not on the tour. I don't know if they pulled out or something happened or whatever the case was. But regardless or irregardless, they weren't there. They weren't on the tour or the show, so didn't see them. So the next band up was they're a Russian folk pagan black metal band, death metal band named Arcona. Again, never heard of them before. They're a four piece. They came out in all these friggin' like gray druid cloaks. They've got a female vocalist. I think her name was Masha Scream. And I'll be honest, that wasn't my thing. I'm not a big folk guy. I don't really listen to a lot of that folk pagan stuff. And on top of that, the sound from either the mixing board or the microphone or the way that she was positioning the microphone or the mic stand, you couldn't, at least where I was standing, my vantage point, you couldn't hear half of it. And it's even more difficult to get into a band whose sound that I'm really not into when I can't even hear the stuff. So it was one of those things where it really wasn't doing much for me. But I listened to it, gave it a chance. I even ran into a guy who used to work with me, and he was talking to a buddy of his, some dude named guy's name is Xander, and he's got a YouTube channel. I guess it's called The Great Metal Debate, is what he told me. And so if you feel like checking it out, go check it out. He made it a point of mentioning that to me when I was introducing myself. And hey, I'm Dan. Nice to meet you. And he was like, oh, I'm Xander. Find me on YouTube on the Great Metal Debate. And I was like, okay. Should I say, well, find me a Moonshine Talking on YouTube? But nah, I'm not gonna do that. I really honestly I downplay the fact that I have a channel, which probably isn't good for its growth, but nonetheless, I don't just go out of my way to tell people that I have a YouTube channel. But if people ask me about it, then I'll mention it. And yeah, that was Arcona from Russia. If you like folk pagan style black and death metal, then that'd probably be up your alley. So then they got off. They were done. They started clearing the stage and started setting everything up for Belphegor, and they had an amazing. Their stage set was amazing. They had all the pomp and pageantry. They had inverted crosses on each side with the skulls, as you can see. They had smoke billowing, and so we get to the point where, for the sake of narration, let's say it's 9:30, and they've got this creepy like chanting church sermon music going on that's just playing, and the smoke is billowing, and it's just going. And after a couple of minutes, everybody starts getting warmed up, and I was getting ready to record the opening of their set, and I'm kind of glad I didn't, because 2, 3 minutes turned into 5 minutes, which then turned into 10 minutes, which eventually turned into almost 20 minutes. It was so bad, in fact, that whatever they were playing, the intro music that they had playing before their set started, it had completed and had to loop back around to start again, and that's how long it was taking. So I don't know if one of the band members was over the sacrificial pit, dropping off a brown goat into the sacrificial pit. I don't know what was going on there, but nonetheless, it took a little while for them to get on stage. And I was kind of wondering to myself, like, ooh, did something happen, or are these guys not coming on the stage? Because again, I'm more of a novice to the band, so I didn't really know too much about them. So I didn't know if, like, I didn't know what the deal was. I didn't know if they were having like rock star issues, or they were fighting, or they were having technical issues, or the problems with the promoter and their pay. Because that sort of shit coming from wrestling, I know all about that. So sometimes you're like, well, screw you. You're not going to pay me. I'm not going on. I'm not going out there. So I didn't know what was going on, but nonetheless, they got on stage and they started tearing it up. Yeah, they played for probably, I would say, a solid hour and 15 minutes. Came back, they finished out their regular set. They came back and did an encore, and the crowd was with them the entire time. And yeah, it was killer. I mean, they did a great job. And yeah, that was their set. That was the show. I ended up going to the merch table and picked their first album, Necrodamon Terror Satan. That's that right there. And I also picked up Conjuring the Dead, this one right here, both of which are on Nuclear Blast. And I know they've got a couple others that I definitely wanted to pick up. I was thinking about getting them on vinyl, but they had a couple there that were, I mean, they had all their stuff there. They had a ton of shirts and CDs and vinyls and patches and this, and they had hats and all sorts of stuff. And then I also picked up, I got this shirt here, which is pretty killer. That you had to get a tour shirt, and that's that. Hopefully you see it well. That's the front, and here is the back. And we were the fourth stop on the tour. And I was talking to I don't know if it was one of the guy's girlfriends or wives, but she was handling the merch. Very nice lady. And she was talking about, they were all pretty tired and looking forward to the night they didn't have a show after the Tampa date, so they got a night off and they were going to all relax and all sort of stuff. So it was cool, but very, very cool, very good show. It was definitely fun. Good time. And yeah, so that was that one. So now let's get into the unexpected impromptu show that I went to. I'm going to take a little swig here real quick and tell you a funny story. So I don't know how in depth or how much people notice little eccentricities and intricacies. Yeah, I can speak well. All the intricacies of my shows, my videos, my channel, all that sort of good stuff. But I'm drinking out of an iced tea bottle because a week or so ago, one of the mason jars I usually drink when I'm not drinking a bottled water, I had it in the fridge, and stupid me, it had condensation on it. So when I went to go shake it with the whatever the contents were at the time, the thing went flying across my kitchen. And it was one of those where I felt it slip, I felt it take flight, and I was, "No, okay, never mind, that thing's gone." And I just watched as it crashed to the ground. And this was actually 2 weeks ago because I was getting ready to go to another physical therapy appointment, and I was almost late because I had to take the time to clean my kitchen floor, clean all the glass up, and make sure I didn't step on any broken glass. Oh, it was a nightmare. It was actually my apple cider vinegar concoction for the morning that I usually drink, and yeah, that was a nightmare. So now I have no more. I don't have that mason jar. Nonetheless, that's some little stupid, unnecessary side story for you that I'm sure you were thrilled to hear. But leading into that, so I go and I do my physical therapy this past Thursday, go run all of my errands, and I get to the point where I go to do my laundry. And I wasn't even going to do my laundry on Thursday. I was going to wait and just not do it. I was going to be a bit of a bum. But then I said, screw it. Let me just go ahead and do it. And so I threw all the crap into the hamper, threw it into the truck, headed down the street to the laundromat and throw my stuff in the washers. And then I come out and I look and and my laundromat is right next to the brass mug. I've been very fortunate that where I live, the area and the part of Tampa that I live, it's within a stone's throw of two of the better nightclubs that host heavy metal shows in the entire area. So I'm very fortunate that I went and do my laundromat. I go to the laundromat and it's right next to the brass mug. And then I walk out the door and I see Exhorder's tour bus sitting outside. So I scroll on my phone when I get a chance, and I see they got a show, and it's tonight, and who's playing with them? And okay, don't know who that is, don't know who that is. Oh, Virulence is playing with him. All right, I'm sold. I'm going to this show. So I ended up doing a couple more errands. Came back, threw my stuff in the dryers, went and did a couple more of my errands, and then I just went right from throwing my stuff, my clean clothes into the hamper in a neat manner, so it's not all wrinkly and whatnot, but th- threw it in there properly and just walked right to the brass mug and went in and bought a ticket and yeah, went up and I saw Chris and Vince from Virulence and got chatting with them. And if you can't tell, I mean, I pretty much, excuse me, I probably given it away a little bit, but I bought a T-shirt, one of their logo shirts, and as you can see in the back, I bought a banner, a necrosis banner from them, which I had my eye on that when I saw them at Swarmfest, but by the time I went to go buy it, they were already gone for the evening, so I didn't get a chance. And it was funny because I was talking to Chris because he was watching Exhorder, and I can't compete with PA systems, so I typed something on my phone and asked him, hey, can you hook me up with this and this before you leave? And so I'd asked him for a 2X, but this is an XL. And I normally don't wear XLs only because it's not that I don't fit in them, but eventually I'm going to wash this and the sleeves are going to have to go away because they get way too tight for me. And I don't really like tight clothing. No, I prefer 2Xs because they at least give me a little bit more breathing room. And yeah, so probably eventually the sleeves are going to come off of this unless I want to look like I shop at the Baby Gap. So yeah, so I got that. I got this, and yeah, and it was a good show. So it was. I can't remember the marketing title that they used for the tour, but it was Exhorder. It was a band called Restless Spirit, which is a stoner doom band from Long Island. It was Heracleon, which is a Louisiana, New Orleans thrash band. And then the two local acts were Virulence, who I've talked about before here, Tampa death metal, just killer. I'll get into that. And then a band called Rama. I know I'm probably saying that incorrectly, but they're a local band. I couldn't give you much info on them because I went on Metal Archives. Excuse me, didn't see anything on them. Uh, but they were good, so they opened up the show and they were decent. They were kind of like not so much proggy, but a little more on the tech deathy side of things. They had a female vocalist, 5-piece. They also had a female guitar player. One of the guitar players, he was kind of a goofy dude, but very lighthearted, and they were having fun up there. They were just enjoying their night. They're in the process of recording a new album, and they've had a couple of EPs. They had a few things for sale, but I didn't buy any of it. It was actually funny because on the list of things, they said for $300, the female vocalist would autograph something on your body or something or other, but that, of course, they put in parentheses, just kidding, or, something like that, or I'm sorry. So somebody was probably ribbing them. But yeah, they were good. And then they got done, and Virulence hit the stage, and these guys are always killer. They always deliver. They're just they really are the embodiment of old school Tampa death metal. They hit all the right markers. They check all the right boxes. They're a fantastic band. I can't say enough good things about them. I wouldn't be buying all their shit if I didn't think they were good. I wouldn't have bought a bunch of CDs from them and gave them to people because I thought they were trash. I'm shared that with people because they're good, and I want people to hear about them. They actually, when I mentioned that I talked to Chris and Vince, I had asked them because they had mentioned back in November that they had been working on a brand new album. According to Chris, he and Vincent still have to lay down guitar tracks, and if he has his way, the album's going to be out by the fourth quarter of this upcoming year. So hopefully that comes out. I'm sure it's going to be a killer one. Keep an eye out for it. They're headlining a show in a couple of weeks up in Gainesville, which is north of here, a couple hours north of here. And I think Anthony from Metal Miners is going about it. He's actually the one who told me about it. So yeah, they were awesome. They did a fantastic job. Chris was having some technical issues. I don't know if it was his guitar leading into his amp, or it was the amp the leading into the guitar, or one of the pedals, or something with the mixing board. But he was having a rough go at it. But they soldiered through, and they did a good job. And he really, he brought it, even though you could tell that he was visibly frustrated with the technical issues that they had going on. But they did a good job. An even funnier story is when I got there, and like I said, I had my laundry with me. So I pulled in, and there's a guy comes in he's sitting in the car next to me. He walks out to his car, see him with a King Diamond shirt, and then I realized it was their bass player. So if anyone doubted the validity of the fact that I'm like putting people on with this notion that I was doing my laundry and just happened upon this show, he could vouch for me, and this will vouch for me.
I just have to show this to everybody so you all can appreciate the dumbness of my luck. This is me with my laundry, getting back from the Exhorder show that I only knew about because the brass mug is right next to the laundromat that I use to do my laundry. And I just so happened to see the Exhorder guy's tour bus outside while I was doing all that.
But yeah, it was good. They were good. Then I knew they were going to be good. They were one of the reasons that sold me on going to the show. And then up next was Heracleon. They again are a thrash band from New Orleans. They're a bunch of young kids, but they definitely, this is a band that I think people should keep an eye on because they've got that heavy metal spirit. They've definitely got the thrash spirit in them. They've very energetic, very enthusiastic. Later during Exhorder set, they he was Kyle was talking about how the drummer, whose name escapes me right now, he used to go over to his house and they told a funny story about Kyle telling him how to make pancakes and oh, whatever the box says, always add an extra egg and you're gonna have the fluffiest pancakes you've ever eaten. So apparently that's a pro tip from Kyle Thomas from Exhorder as far as cooking pancakes. So use it at your heart's desire. But they were awesome. They were really good. Three piece, very tight. They had I love the Rickenbacker bass that their bass player was using. It had a very solid, very good. My word for the week for bass is a very juicy sound, very deep and throbbing. You know, this sounds kind of naughty, but nonetheless. But no, they were real good. Their guitar player and vocalist, he was on point. Yeah, the whole band was killer. I mean, they did a fantastic job. And I ended up somewhere here in this pile of stuff. I've got maybe I don't. Hold on. They're not even out of the wrapping yet. But I bought this is their latest EP, Necroverse. You can check that out right there. And that is independently released. And I got their other EP, Curse of Eternity. You can check that out without all the glare. It's pretty good stuff. That's the fellows right there. The young kid on the left there, that's the drummer. That's who used to get pancakes at Kyle's house when he was a kid. So yeah, from the get, what I gather, these are a bunch of they've been part of the New Orleans scene for quite some time, as far as either being fans and then getting to know the bands, getting into their own bands and doing all that. I saw them probably 2 years ago. They opened up for Goat Whore, and I got talking to the drummer, and I asked him. I said, "Did you guys play here?" And I asked him a couple of dates, like, "Did you play this?" And they're like, "No." He said, "No, we weren't here for that." And I said, "I swear I've seen you." And then he told me, "Well, we played. What's the big place?" And I said, "The Orpheum." He said, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah. We played with Goat Whore a couple of years ago." I said, "That's where I saw you." And it was them. It was Goat Whore. There may have been another band, and then there was Caveman Cult, who you can have that. I don't know what that was, but and actually we got joking a little bit about that because I told him like, yeah, you guys were good. Caveman Cult, not so much. And then he told me that a couple people came up to him and was like, "Yeah, man, you guys were great, but I don't know what the hell that was." And I guess that's that war. And he was even laughing. He says, "Yeah, war metal's He said I like it, but some people they don't understand it and don't get it." I said, and I told him, "Yeah, it's an acquired taste, and a lot of people don't acquire the taste for it, but them definitely not. That was if I were to categorize any bands in that style of music as just noise, that would be them because to me, that was like I was just okay. Can can we get through this so Goat Whore can get on the stage? I'd really rather listen to them right now because that just wasn't for me. And I'm trying not to be disrespectful to the artists and their style and their talent, but it wasn't for me. So yeah, definitely go check out Heracleon. They've got a band camp. They're touring all over the place with Exhorder, and yeah, they're good. So then up next was Restless Spirit from Long Island. Like I said, they were a doom stoner band, three piece. Their drummer's a beast. Just to quote a friend of mine, a rock pig on pizza. Just a very, very strong, very, very powerful drummer. Hits the drums like he's trying to punch a hole through every one of them, and it just sounded it was very powerful, the drumming that he did. The band itself is really good. I thought they have very very groovy, not like psychedelic groovy, but more like they got a lot of riffs, very riff heavy. If I were to compare them in anything, I'd probably say they're somewhere between like obviously Black Sabbath influence, and I would say probably a Pale Horse Named Death or Typo Negative, which Pale Horse Named Death that was a project of Sal from Typo and Life of Agony. That was one of his bands. It was more kind of like a gothic groove metal kind of thing, and that would be probably somewhere in there. I would say is probably the influences that they have. Maybe even some Carnivore. Their vocalist, guitar player, he had a big Typo tattoo on his arm, so obviously Pete Steele and Typo are a big influence on him. So I don't think I'm too far off on the comparisons. Exhorder came on, and they were awesome. I mean, Exhorder, a legendary band in their own right from Louisiana, the thrash kind of groove metal thing. There's lots of people believe that Exhorder had their entire sound ripped off by Pantera, who then went on to become a way bigger version of what many would say, a way bigger Exhorder than Exhorder got to be. The Law and is very well known in the underground. Kyle Thomas has been in a ton of projects. Floodgate comes to mind. He took on the almost immeasurable task of replacing Eric Wagner in Trouble. But he did a great job on Distortion Field. That's a really good album. It's a little bit of there's a different flavor to it because there's no Eric Wagner on vocals, but it's still nonetheless it's a very good Trouble album. I do rate it pretty high as far as Trouble stuff goes. It's definitely not garbage. He was also in Alabama Thunder Pussy. He did Open Fire for them, and they've gone through a series of vocalists as far as the band goes. But I've talked about them many times, and they're a solid band. And he's been a part of all those projects. They got Pat O'Brien with them. Pat O'Brien from Cannibal Corpse. He's in the band now. I kept looking at it, and I was like, yeah, that's no, I didn't, and I didn't feel like looking, so I was just waiting, hoping they were going to introduce the band. And sure enough, he was like, "Hey, give it up for Pat O'Brien." I was like, I thought that was him. Everybody knows he had some issues a couple years ago, legal wise. Very famously made the news here in Tampa, which was unfortunate. And then he left Cannibal Corpse, and they got Eric Rutan to take over the guitar duties. But he sounded great. He looked fine. But the band was killer. I mean, they put on a great show. Everybody was into it from start to finish, and they did a fantastic job. good time. It was definitely it was fun. It was worth it. It was just funny to go and see a show that I had absolutely zero idea that was happening. It made a few people laugh. The fact that I had no idea what was going on because I'm so out of the loop on a lot of things. But as it turns out, by going to the show, I found out a few weeks from now, Cardiac Arrest is playing at the Brass Mug. So I'm going to go hit that up, which, if you're not familiar, the Sun Dome is where the USF, University of South Florida, the Bulls, they play basketball there. And they're probably going to have half of the court roped off and curtained off, and that's going to be the show. I saw Cannibal Corpse there last year with Amon Amarth, Frozen Soul and Obituary. It was a good time. You know, Cannibal brings it all the time, and I've never seen Carcass, so that should be fun. And I saw Meshuggah a long time ago. They played with Down and System of a Down. I didn't stick around for System of a Down. I went there to primarily see Down. Only knew Meshuggah at the time for one song off of a compilation, and that was pretty much it. And I ended up breaking my hand on somebody's face in the middle of their set because somebody threw me into a mosh pit and I didn't like it. So I ended up whipping back and cracking them in the head somewhere and ended up breaking the third metacarpal, fourth metacarpal on my left hand. So now my finger's a lot smaller on that hand, but nonetheless, all babbling aside. So yeah, so that was my double feature live show recap review that I've dubbed the Wrath of the Laundry Hamper. Just come with something silly as far as the title. So yeah, hope you enjoyed it. Hope you check out everything I got going on here. We'll have some reviews coming up here soon. I did hear a few new albums this week, just nothing that I've bought, nothing that I've reviewed. I heard a stoner band, a doom band called Smoke Mountain. They're from Tallahassee, Florida. They just put out an album on Argonauta Records. That one sounded pretty good. I was checking that out on Bandcamp. Heard another. There was a epic doom band I listened to. Heard one song from them. They're a LA based band. I can't remember the name. Female vocals. Same with Smoke Mountain. Female vocals. That seemed to be a theme this week. And then was checking out a little bit of Ern's new album on Osmos's YouTube site. It sounded pretty good. But then I got distracted because Osmos also put out the 30th anniversary release of Son of Tifereth from Absu. So I got listening to that. And between that and the Kai album, that pretty much fueled the brand new Kai album that came in today. That pretty much fueled my workout today. So that's what I was doing. So not that you need to know all that, but you know what you came here when you come here. You know what you're getting from me. Just a bunch of babbling nonsense and mindless pablum. So I hope you enjoyed it. Everyone, have a good one. I'll catch you on the next video. And as always, this is Dan from Moonshine Talking saying, stay sick, stay heavy, stay brutal, always tuck your chin upon impact, and don't forget to breathe. Everyone, have a good one. Take it easy, and I will catch you on the next one. Later.